Coming to you live from Radio Cayman Studio.
For the record.
For the record. Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you. For the record. Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the record.
For the record. Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Orit Connor.
And good morning, Cayman. I'm Donna Bush in this beautiful Monday morning here in the Cayman Islands from Mr. Orit O.C. Connor. I hope that everyone had a great weekend, most of all a safe one, and hopefully you had some time to spend with family, friends, and your other loved ones around the island just enjoying the weekend. This is going to be a short week here in the Cayman Islands, as well as other places around the world, because we have a midweek holiday. It's Ash Wednesday on Wednesday. So it's 2 days at work and 1 day off, and then 2 days at work and then 2 days off. So it's kind of a crazy week for everybody, but surely, hopefully everybody will get some time in for themselves and their families and enjoy their time wherever they're at, whatever they're doing. And especially at work, it's a short work week, so that means less time to get what you need done. So work a little bit harder, a little bit smarter, and hopefully you'll get everything taken care of. For the Record is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance Insurance Company Limited. You can call them at 949-9744 or visit them in Alista Towers. Of course, always thankful for sponsors of the show. Without them, the bills don't get paid. So thank God for that. This morning in the studio with us, we have the Minister of Education Employment, Ms. Tara Rivers, as well as Dr. Tasha Ebanks Garcia. They're both here to talk to us about the Ready to Work program. But before that, our minister would like to address an issue. If you've seen the front page of the Caymanian Compass this morning, there is an article that says Minister dismisses chamber criticism. And we'd like to begin the show this morning just addressing that. That story, if you haven't had a chance to read it, basically there were some statements made by the immediate past president of the Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Barry Bodden, in relation to the consultation draft Labor Relations Bill 2015, the Ready to Work employment program launched by the government and Minister of Employment's alleged unwillingness to engage with the Chamber. The Ministry of Employment has issued a statement directly addressing a number of significant inaccuracies contained in those statements. And that's what we'd like to start the show off talking about this morning. And then, of course, we'll get into the Ready to Work program and how that is proposed to assist those who are unemployed. So welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
For the Record. So let's talk about your response statement to immediate past president.
Sure. And before I do that, I actually want to say good morning to the listening public and just a very big, hearty congratulations to all of the Heroes Day winners. I unfortunately wasn't able to be there because I was off island. I had to be off island that week, so I wasn't there to congratulate people in person. So I certainly want to say a big congratulations, especially to all the West Bay recipients and the families of the West Bay recipients. I am very proud of all of you and wanted to lend my heartfelt support in that regard. But thank you, Donna, for your question. I think recently, as you can see, there has been a number of statements that have been made or are reported to be made by the immediate past president in the various mediums. And I felt because of all that has transpired kind of behind the scenes with respect to the work of myself as well as the ministry team, it was really necessary at this point to kind of set the record straight. Of course, this is for the record. And so, it was important that the people, the wider community, but also the chamber members themselves, the employers who are, members of the chamber, for them to really understand and to know the facts about the level of engagement attempted by myself personally, but also by the staff, as I said, of the ministry and the various departments that fall under the ministry through the past 2 years. We really have tried to engage with the chamber in a very meaningful way in order to create some very exciting programs and really to see that we could try to work in partnership with the chamber. Now, Building public-private partnerships is a big thing for me personally, and obviously this government as well. And it's been a key plank of my not just platform in terms of campaigning, but platform in terms of carrying out the work as minister in this government. And so really I think what I guess you said the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak, was when I saw comments that emanated from the immediate past president, Mr. Barry Borden, claiming that, and I quote now, "To date, there has been no attempt by the minister to engage with the chamber, even though the bill," and this is referring to the Labour Relations Bill, "has been presented to caucus for consideration." So that statement in itself really, I think, culminated, obviously, the feelings of that, individual, but also speaking on behalf of the presidency, of the position as presidency of the chamber. And there's lots of misinformation, I think, that's been communicated in that. And I felt it was actually important for the people to understand what transpired and what the actual situation was with the facts and let them judge for themselves. So the three concerns I have really about that particular statement and other statements made about lack of willingness to engage or no engagement with respect to the Ready to Work program and others, really, because it, to me, essentially boiled down to misinformation being passed on to the membership, the chamber membership, at their annual general meeting and to the public at large with respect to the status of the bill. The second issue that I have is the claim about the alleged unwillingness to engage by myself, specifically as it relates to the Labour Relations Bill. And thirdly, the claim that the chamber had not been consulted on the Ready to Work initiative. And if you will indulge me, I would like to kind of address those three issues in turn. But really, I think it's important to start with the not being consulted on the Ready to Work program first, because that really sets the stage for when the engagement with the chamber in particular started in earnest with myself personally. So from as far back as the 10th of January 2014, I had a first meeting with the then incoming president of the chamber, Mr. Johan Moxham, really at the beginning of his presidency, and the chamber CEO, Mr. Will Pinot. And, they were invited to come to the ministry to discuss a very exciting initiative which we wanted to launch, as I said, in partnership with the chamber in particular, which was the National Apprenticeship Program. Now, I know you may recall me speaking about this program from very early on. And so from January 10th, 2014, we had engaged the chamber directly to say, this is what we're thinking of doing. We recognize that the success of this program requires the participation of the business community, and who better to go to help us reach the community, but the largest voice for the business community in their own words. And so we had a meeting then. It was very exciting. Everybody on the table felt, Dr. Tasha was there at that particular meeting as well, and everybody felt, yes, this is something that we can get on board with. And there was a number of deliverables that were discussed. One of them being that the chamber was to go back and canvass their membership to determine, who had already some sort of training program in place that could either be used as a model or to kind of piggyback on to try to develop a national kind of program to be rolled out across various industries. So first it was to be a fact-finding information, so we don't duplicate, or reinvent the wheel. If we know that there's companies on island doing certain things that we could actually use, as I said, as a model to develop this type of national program in other industries, or to just help us as a starting point. That was agreed by the chamber at that meeting, and subsequently confirmed in a letter to us on following week in January, saying yes, they were happy to be a part of the program. This is what they planned to do, and they wanted to, they proposed a way forward. So as a result of that, then the ministry then reached back out to the chamber saying, thank you for confirming your interest. We would like to move forward in this. Let's meet again to discuss the details now as to how we can flesh out the plan in more detail as to how this program will roll out from the participation of the chamber plus the participation of the ministry. So a follow-up meeting was planned and scheduled and actually attended by a number of chamber representatives this time. It wasn't just the president and the CEO, but there were several council members. And this meeting took place on the 13th of March, 2014. And again, that was really to discuss the plan of action kind of going forward in more detail. During that meeting, it was agreed that the chamber would come back to the ministry with a proposal within a month afterwards to kind of, again, flesh out the plan, the decision. The discussion was about focusing on 2 or 3 industries to start with, and then build on the successes thereafter. So again, it sounded like a sensible plan. We were negotiating. I wouldn't say negotiating, but we were discussing in good faith that, this is what they committed to do and this is what was going to be done. So we left that meeting, and the ministry, as I said, was waiting then to hear from the chamber with respect to this particular proposal and any MOU or otherwise that they were expecting to put forward. There appeared to be, from my perspective, kind of radio silence after that. Of course, the ministry was very busy doing the many other projects that we had. And so, essentially, I followed up again in a letter to the chamber on the 23rd of September, 2014, which really, and I'd like to read that letter, because that letter really not just talks about what we were trying to do and engaging the chamber with respect to developing this national apprenticeship program, but it also spoke directly to our plan that we had with respect to the development of the Labour Relations Bill, at that time of the amendment to the Labour Law. So again, that puts the two things very much in context. So on 23rd September 2014, the letter was addressed to Mr. Johan Moxham, President, as I said, of the Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce at the time. And it says, "Dear Mr. Moxham, re-proposed amendments to the Labour Law. Thank you for your letter dated 22nd of September 2014. As indicated in my debate in the Legislative Assembly and referenced in your letter, the government intends to publish for consultation a draft bill to amend the Labour Law later this year. We will of course share the draft bill with the Chamber as a key employer stakeholder and look forward to receiving input from your membership at that time. Thanks also for your invitation, and I look forward to participating in a Be Informed session as part of the planned public consultation. My office will reach out to you to coordinate this once the public consultation process has begun." On another note, further to our meeting on the 13th of March 2014, as a follow-up to our earlier meeting on 10th of January 2014, can you provide an update as to the draft proposal that the Chamber had committed to sending within a month regarding the proposed National Apprenticeship Programme, which I had discussed with you and the CEO? The government intends to pursue the further development of such a programme in other key industries, having already done so with the launch of the School of Hospitality Studies for the hospitality industry earlier this month, and would love to partner with the Chamber as one of the employer representatives to help make this expanded program a reality and a success. We look forward to hearing from you in this regard. Yours sincerely. Signed by myself. So again, this was sent back on the 23rd of September 2014, saying once the bill was prepared and ready to be put forward for public consultation, we would absolutely reach out to the Chamber, give them this information, and then arrange to attend and participate in the Be Informed session as we were requested to do at that time. However, 2 years later, after seeking this information with respect to, the apprenticeships and what was currently in the market and, which chamber members would be interested in participating, we still have not received this information to date in terms of knowing, first of all, what does the current employment or employer situation look like with respect to training programs. Since then, the ministry has now hired a TVET coordinator, and that person started in office at the beginning of this month, and that TVET coordinator is working through the auspices of the NWDA, and they'll be working specifically with the government to help them move this agenda along. Again, given the new commitment that the Chamber has recently said to the government, we hope that they will continue to work with the NWDA to actually now, deliver on that particular promise to help us figure out exactly which companies, what institutions have these type of programs that we can actually build upon. So, but of course, given our experience, the ministry certainly hasn't put all its eggs in one basket. And we have, worked with from the very beginning, or especially since the beginning of 2015, we've worked with other agencies, other industries to try to develop these similar types of training programs, because for the year 2014, we really did not get anywhere with respect to the kinds of discussions and moving the project forward. And it's unfortunate because what it has done is actually delayed significantly the timeline that we were hoping to be able to roll this out. Nonetheless, we were very grateful And we were very successful in developing a number of partnerships directly with at least 4 other private sector organizations or key industries that we worked directly with. And so it wasn't like, all was lost. And as I said, it wasn't we were putting all of our eggs in one basket. We were trying to explore that as the obvious first choice. But when we weren't actually making the progress we were expected to make, we needed to move on.
Can I ask you to stick a pin there, Minister Rivers? We're going to take a break here on For the Record. We'll be back in just a few minutes to talk more with Minister Rivers and the issues and concerns relating to the Labour Amendment Bill. And welcome back, Cayman. If you're just joining us, I'm Donna Bush in for Mr. O.C. Connor this morning. We're talking to Minister Tara Rivers. You can give us a call, as our commercial just said, at 1-800-534-8255. That's compliments of Flow, or 949-8037. That's 1-800-534-8255 or 949-8037. Minister Rivers was talking about a statement that she released on Friday in regards to some allegations that were made by immediate past president of the Chamber, Mr. Barry Bodden, as it relates to the Labour Relations Bill. Minister Rivers, can you continue for us where you left off as it relates to the talks and meetings and so forth that you had with the Chamber of Commerce and where it had reached to as of, I think it was the 1st of 2015?
Right. So, just in that 1 year alone, the 2014 year alone, you saw that there was really 3 concrete examples taken by myself, plus the numerous other conversations I think that happened between staff of the ministry and the NWD and that I may not even be aware of at the time, that really that demonstrates that the Chamber was given a number of opportunities to partner with the government and in fact be in the driver's seat with respect to developing and shaping what this national apprenticeship program should look like, because really we wanted to make sure that the needs of the employers with respect to their employment when they were seeking employees, what were some of the challenges that they were facing and how we could shape this program to address their needs, but also to ensure that the job opportunities that are available and that were growing in the local labour market were actually being accessible and available to local Caymanian population in particular. But, due to the apparent inaction on the part of the Chamber during the 2014 year, and then, there was a meeting that took place with the then new president, the now immediate past president, on the 1st of May, the very kind of slow pace of action that took place from the 1st of May meeting, and that meeting was about this same exact issue, trying to, new presidency, new chamber, council, let's bring them back to the table to say, okay, just reminding you about this initiative we've been trying to work on for the past, at that point, almost 18 months. Can you let us know where you're at and what you can do to help? Because we really are keen to move this thing forward. Commitments, again, were given during that time. I understand there has been some dialogue back and forth between the Chamber and the Ministry of the NWDA, but to date, we still don't have a program that we're able to actually launch and roll out with respect to the work that was going on between the 2 organizations. And so, as I said, the government, we'd really hoped that to have achieved by now something that we could have actually kind of rolled out at least across a number of industries, given the fact that we started working on this within 6 months of taking office. Nonetheless, as I said, we've made great strides with other key representatives, and we can talk about some of those initiatives which actually came online after we started talking to the Chamber, but yet has been rolled out or is about to be eminently rolled out as we speak. So I think that really the concern and a bit of the frustration that I certainly have, and I know other members of the government feel, and I'm sure to some effect the people working diligently to try to move this thing forward on behalf of the government, and that is the members of the ministry and otherwise, when we hear comments made by individuals who themselves had the opportunity to be in the driving seat, to make something happen, makes comments like, what the government is trying to do with the Ready to Work program is too little, too late, and the Chamber, doesn't have the responsibility to help with employment issues, or they weren't consulted in this process. It's really amazing to hear this, knowing exactly what has transpired over the last 2 years. And to me, it seems as if the Chamber, at with making those kinds of statements, even though these are, immediate past presidents we're talking about, but they're still affiliated, and in many instances they represent the views of the organization that they are, I assume, still currently members of, that, they're trying to renege on these commitments, or they're trying to portray a vision to the community that just simply isn't the case. And so, as I said, the ministry has always engaged with the chamber in good faith. And we have relied on the commitments given during the past 2 years with respect to what the chamber was going to do to move this process forward to help the government to achieve its goal of developing a national apprenticeship program. And let's again be very clear. This type of program, this is a training and employment program. It cannot be successful unless you have the businesses, the employers at the table, from the beginning, to make sure that there is that buy-in. And as I said, going directly to the chamber as a first instance was a logical first step, given the breadth that they represent with respect to the various industries. And unfortunately, as I've just outlined to you, we still have not received, or we haven't developed something that was tangible that we could roll out. And so by this point, or late last year, I was getting quite anxious about having something that we could move forward on that resembles what we were trying to achieve with the National Apprenticeship Program. And so I tasked the ministry team, and of course the ministry working very closely with the SRIU, which Dr. Tasha also, wears that hat. This was given not just as a ministry project, but a government-wide project. And so the government endorsed this attempt and to move this type of work program forward. And so they were tasked to develop, from about November of last year to early this year, to develop a plan to address the concerns. And as I said, the development of this, very much we attempted to involve the Chamber of Commerce from the very beginning. For almost 2 years, we made absolute no progress with respect to something that we can actually sink our teeth into. So the ministry had to do what it had to do, and the government had to do what it had to do to move this project forward. So as I said, it's very disheartening to hear some people try to say what the government isn't doing and what the government should be doing. But when you had the opportunity to do something, you did absolutely nothing. But as I said, it's a new chamber president, a new chamber council to some degree. And it is encouraging that this chamber is committing to be a part of the Ready to Work task force now. And the Premier has agreed to appoint the president of the chamber as a member of the task force. And I believe this presents a real great opportunity for the chamber to really now demonstrate its commitment to working with the government in order to ensure the success of the program and to find this kind of targeted solution that the Ready to Work program does offer to address a specific type or specific concerns as it relates to employment. The other issue that I'd like to speak to very briefly, Donna, is the fact that the concerns or the claims expressed by the immediate past president about my alleged unwillingness to engage with the membership on the Labour Relations Bill.
Can we get to those comments in just a few minutes? We're going to take a time check now, as well as we have our 8 o'clock hour news here on For the Record. Please stay with us. And welcome back to For the Record. This beautiful Monday morning here in the Cayman Islands. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. We're here talking with Minister Tara Rivers about a response statement that she made to immediate past president of the Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Barry Bodden. We'd also like to remind you that you can call the show with any comments or questions for Minister Rivers. We're going to be talking about the Ready to Work program in just a bit as well on the tail end of this conversation. The numbers to call, though, are 1-800-534-8255, or 949-8037. So, Minister Rivers, you were continuing to talk about the Labor Relations Bill and how this whole conversation came about and your response letter.
Sure. Thank you, Donna. And again, just reminding people about the contents, as I said, of the initial letter, which I sent to the Chamber on the 23rd of September, 2014, indicating the plan of action at that point with respect to once the bill was finalized, or this is the public consultation draft bill.
Right.
Let's make it very clear. This what went out for public consultation wasn't even a gazetted bill per se. It was just a draft bill that was put out for public consultation. Mm-hmm. And I indicated to the chamber at that time that once we had that, that document, that we could actually have a meaningful discussion about what some of the ideas or proposals with respect to the labor reform were, and hear directly from individuals such as the chamber and other stakeholders such as employees and the like. We would go back and we would go to the chamber and say, well, here is the appropriate time to really have this kind of conversation and dialogue with respect to what this consultation draft entails. So in June of 2015, as soon as the bill was launched, the ministry proactively sent a copy of the bill, or the draft bill, as I said, to the chamber, and said at that time, further to what we agreed, we're happy to participate in your Be Informed sessions to help to have this discussion with your chamber members. Please let us know when you have these planned, and we'll be more than willing to participate as you had initially requested. Instead, the chamber elected not to involve myself or the ministry at that time, and instead proceeded to host the Be Informed sessions to discuss the labour relation and the pension bills, and they enlisted the assistance of another private attorney to discuss the consultation draft bills without really responding even to the ministry's offer to do so. And in fact, it was only after the ministry had discovered that those sessions were indeed planned, by seeing them on the chamber website and kind of querying the chamber CEO at that time, then the staff of the ministry were invited to attend. And, but not as presenters, of course, as just attendees. The staff of the ministry and the department did, in fact, attend both sessions, and, were available to assist whatever questions that may have come up if called upon to do so. Again, in a spirit of trying to stay engaged with the chamber in this regard, the staff did take up those invitations after the fact, and certainly made themselves available at that time. So just that alone kind of gives me the impression that, it would appear that whatever unwillingness to engage wasn't necessarily on the part of the ministry. As I said, we took proactive steps to follow up with our commitment to participating. The chamber, which as is their prerogative, they decided to not go that route, but didn't even inform the ministry per se with respect to those offers, and then went ahead and planned. And as I said, the rest is history. So, it's very concerning to hear comments like the minister has not engaged with the chamber to date on these bills, when in fact, we made concerted efforts to do so at the time. We have since received comments from the chamber, and as was indicated to the chamber council last week, Wednesday, it was felt once those comments were received, this are written comments that is, and the ministry had a period of time to go through all of the comments, not just the chamber comments, but all of the comments submitted. And we had several hundred comments because you'll remember the consultation process was very extensive and it was very exhaustive. And so we, the ministry team and the department had to painstakingly go through all of these comments and, kind of process them and come up with the key policy concerns and issues. And after having reviewed all the comments as well as the chamber comments, because most of the chamber comments were either determined to be acceptable in some form or neutral, just more like drafting technical points that the ministry could take on board. At that time, it wasn't necessary to have any sort of meetings because we'd heard from the chamber. We saw there wasn't anything that was that we felt that we couldn't accommodate in some degree. And quite frankly, we had made a number of attempts to do so, and those attempts were not taken up. And the ministry was very busy in the process of collecting and collating and trying to put forward additional drafting instructions. So, as I said, at the end of that public consultation period, and when the when the actual suggestion for additional drafting instructions were put forward, this was what was presented to the caucus. So as you will see in the claims by the immediate past president that the bill had actually been put forward, and as if it was some finalized, done deal situation without the chamber's input, at no time was an amended bill presented to caucus, as was mistakenly claimed by the immediate past president, Mr. Barry Bodden. And as I said, we actually had taken on board, to some degree, the majority of the comments put forward by the chamber. But to me, what was particularly troubling in all of this was that this misunderstanding about the bill being presented to caucus was actually corrected It was actually, in fact, corrected in a separate discussion held with the Chamber CEO days before the Chamber AGM. This was done by my colleagues in the government had a separate discussion with the Chamber CEO, and apparently this concern was raised and it was corrected at that time.
Okay.
Yet the wrong message was still communicated to the Chamber membership and to the public at the AGM. So it begs the question, where was the breakdown in communication? The Chamber CEO, who was really what we've been primarily interacting with during this whole process, knew the facts. Yet the Chamber immediate past president is out there saying something that's incorrect. So, again, it was clear from Mr. Bodden's statements that he either didn't know or didn't care about the ministry's attempts to engage with the Chamber. And so, therefore, it led to those types of statements. And so, again, all of that has led me to this point where it's absolutely necessary for me to clarify, for the benefit of the listening public, what has transpired, so the public knows that we have actually been very diligent in trying to engage not just the Chamber of Commerce, but as many people as widely as possible in this particular process.
We have a caller on the phone. You have a question or comment for Minister Rivers this morning on For the Record?
Yeah,
and welcome to the show. Good morning.
Okay. Yeah, no disrespect to the chambers, but it looked like the Ready to Go or whatever it named their work program now is good and hot, and the money is there now. I guess they'll jump on now because the money is there. When there was no money, how come they wouldn't work with the minister? And the minister did what she's supposed to do. She did her letters, so she got her letters, her copy of her letters to know that she wrote these people, and they didn't pay her no mind, so she not got nothing to worry about. What she needs to do now is get a big meeting down in West Bay Town Hall and invite all of her people out, because that's what they're trying to do, take her back out of there now and show her all her letters and make everybody know that she was doing her job, and they was just trying to, I guess, stab her in her back. But the minister is well known and talked to, and people are talking to her, that she have people in her own ministries or ministry that not even working with her, that is stabbing her in her back, and she got to be careful of what's going on, because not everybody is her friend. So she's a powerful woman. So as you can see, powerful women have to stand strong. So I got to let her know that, I continue to pray for her, and I know that she's a good person, and she mean what she say, and when she do things, she do it to the best of her ability. So tell her I want to make her know that let them talk, and she keep writing. As they talk, she keep writing, and keep her copies. Because that's what they don't like. When you write and keep your copies, and you got things to throw in their face after. So she got all her stuff that she did everything forward, and they didn't pay her no mind. So tell her don't worry about anything. She'll be all right.
Thank you, caller. And Minister Rivers can, of course, respond to your comments.
Yes, thank you very much, caller, for that. And thank you, obviously for the endorsement and understanding, all that has gone on and what I'm trying to communicate today. But also thank you for your suggestion about having the meeting in West Bay. I certainly had that in mind. I planned to do that. I'm just kind of working out the details as to when would be the best time, given everybody's schedule. But certainly I do plan to have a meeting in West Bay in short order. And this will certainly be one of the conversations that I'd be happy to continue with if people have further questions. So thanks for that suggestion as well.
And to the caller about her writing, as you were talking, she was writing away. Okay, so let's continue the conversation on your response statement, Minister Rivers, and then we're going to go into talk about the Ready to Work program. Why now?
Sure. And so, Donna, you would have noticed recently that there was a statement put out by the Chamber of Commerce talking about indicating a new partnership reached with the government and the Chamber. And so, again, I want to say very directly, I am, even in the face of all of this, I am still very optimistic. I'm optimistic that we can actually now, in earnest, move forward and achieve the goals that the entire community has, which is to make sure that the needs of the businesses are addressed with respect to ensuring that the employees are ready and fit and able to do the work that they're expected to do, but also ensure that the community, the unemployed in particular, have real access to these jobs that we know are in the market and that we know are growing. The labour market in Cayman is actually growing, and so we need to make sure that as many Caymanians as possible are given the opportunities to take advantage of this growing market. So, as I said, when I was away during the time that the AGM took place. And so there was a bit of a delay in terms of me being able to even become aware that all of this is going on. But also, upon coming back to office, I realized that, there was a meeting planned with the chamber and the government. And I said, you know what? I wanted to give them the professional courtesy, which wasn't extended to myself, to basically talk to them about my concerns and express and lay out, just like I've laid out here today, what the issues that I see with respect to the kind of campaign of misinformation, I call it, of late by certain individuals, and how I was extremely disappointed in that and the failure on the part of the organization really to fulfill its commitments over the past 2 years. I did express at that particular meeting on last Wednesday that, I felt that they put me in a situation where I had no choice but to be here today to issue the statement that I issued to really set the record straight, because they were trying to paint a picture that simply wasn't true. And, up until that point, I was happy to just keep trudging along behind the scenes, dealing with whatever personal frustrations. But if you're going to make castigations and you're going to make allegations of lack of engagement, of lack of discussion, when you know full well that is not the case, then you need to be prepared to answer to those allegations. And that's why I felt it was necessary to be here today. We see, as you said, the press release that came out on Thursday, which was very, very quick and rapid in an attempt to kind of, what I see as significantly brush under the carpet these shortcomings that we were discussing today. And, although they did state in the fine print that the bill was being finalized as opposed to having been final, that after seeing that, it just reinforced the fact that was another missed opportunity. They could have come clean, especially since I had talked them through the issues. They could have come clean and said, look, there was a misunderstanding, we apologize and we move on. None of that happened. So again, it reinforced in my mind that the people needed to hear from me. The people needed to hear exactly what happened so we can really move forward in the spirit of partnership, if that is your true intention. Because it wasn't forthcoming from the chamber, so it had to be forthcoming from me. Just again, briefly want to, because I'm talking a lot about lack of engagement of the chamber in particular, but as I said, there were some key people that engaged with us during the last 2 years, and I want to recognize those those organizations and those industries and thank them for coming on board so we could actually deliver on these programs. School of Hospitality Studies with CETA, that was launched in August of 2014, I believe. That, again, perfect, not perfect, but I mean, great example of the public sector, private sector working together. We've also launched, the ministry in particular has launched a partnership with the Health City for student internships, both at the high school level, but also at the college level. Students coming back, they're working at the hospital to get that practical experience. Want to thank Health City for that as well. Also want to thank Cayman Finance. As you would recall, the student education and training program that's geared towards the school leavers in year 12 who are about to embark on their next stage in their particular career, giving them that opportunity to understand the financial services industry and get a foot in the door. That came together very quickly in 2015 and was launched at the end of the academic year in 2015. And I want to thank Cayman Finance for coming to the table and not just saying that they were going to do something, but actually doing something and being able to deliver on the mutual goals that we had. And also, as you will hear, or you might have heard, most recently being announced in December of last year at the E&Y Symposium, there will soon to be a Cayman Islands chapter of the Board Apprentice Program, which is a program that's really driven by the private sector. It was introduced to the country by myself through and working along with then Councillor Connolly to bring the Board Apprentice International Program, introducing it to the private sector. And we had a number of meetings with various people in the private sector. And I'm happy to say that E&Y is picked up the and it's a program geared to really hit the 3 target areas that fall within the ministry. It deals with education. It deals with employment, because it's an employment prospects, helping professionals take it to the next step of their career. But it also deals with gender and other diversity issues, because it talks about the strength of any boardroom being enhanced by having diversity at the level of the boardroom. So I'm very excited about the imminent launch of that, and I certainly will be working very closely with E&Y on that regard. So I just say that to say that I know there is, as the caller alluded to, there may be a significant campaign of propaganda about, well, why didn't this partnership work with the chamber? It has to do with the minister, it had to do with the ministry, or it had to do with the government. But the fact is, even while trying to work with the chamber, we were successful in launching at least these 4 that I've just mentioned. And I apologize, there certainly are other partnerships. And for those of you that we're working with, thank you. And I'm sure we'll have an opportunity to speak to that at another time. So it certainly had nothing to do with the lack of real willingness to engage on the part of the ministry and certainly on the part of the government. So that pretty much is in a nutshell, I think, the history. I certainly can go into more details, but I think people should have enough of an understanding as to what has been happening in the background, trying to move this program forward. The ministry certainly is very excited, and the government is certainly very excited to now be rolling out this Ready to Work program. And I'm certainly happy to kind of transition us into that next segment of our discussion.
All right, before we go to the Ready to Work program, we're going to take a break here on For the Record, and then we come back with a call. And welcome back to For the Record this Monday morning. I'm Donna Bush in for Mr. O.C. Orritt, O.C. Connor. And if you've been listening in, we've had the Minister for Employment, Education here on the show with us, as well as Dr. Tasha Ebanks Garcia from the ministry as well, with us to talk about the Ready to Work program. However, Minister Rivers has been addressing are talking about her response to recent allegations of her unwillingness to engage with the Chamber of Commerce as it relates to the labor amendments to the labor bill back in 2014, from 2014, 2015, and now we're in 2016. We do have one caller in the air. Do you have a question or a comment for Minister Rivers this morning? And welcome to the show.
Good morning, everybody. It's Dolan Hunter from the Brock.
Okay, welcome. Thank you for calling. Just if I could ask you, I know you always call the show, and we welcome your calls as always. And I hope you had a great weekend and that you'll have a great week. But if you could just keep your comments short this morning for us, that would be great.
Okay, I just got 2 suggestions.
Okay.
One is this: try and get some of that workforce money to come to the Brock. And the second one is this: Tyler Rivers, if you know that man from the Chamber of Commerce is wrong, what you need to do, have a public meeting and tell him if he man enough, come out there and tell you so in front of the public.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the suggestions. Minister Rivers, would you like to respond to that?
No, again, thank you, caller, for your comments, and we will certainly be able to talk more about the fact that the BRAC certainly will be involved in this Ready to Work program as we roll this out. So we certainly haven't forgotten about you, number one, or your constituents or the constituents in Cayman BRAC. And as I indicated, I certainly will be, you're the second caller now that has asked for a public meeting. So I certainly will be looking to make sure that we try to facilitate a meeting of that nature in short order.
Okay,
right.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, number one, calling from the BRAC there. I'd also like to remind folks this morning that we will be ending the show a bit early this morning. Duty calls on my part, so I will have to leave the show early this morning. Let's just continue to talk about the Ready to Work, or begin talking about the Ready to Work program. Actually, I understand we have another caller, so let's take this other call really quick, and then we'll talk about the Ready to Work program. Caller, you're on the air with us here and For the Record.
Good morning to you all. And
Good morning.
I just wanted to pass a comment. As for the chamber, the past chairman or president of that organization, they have several businesses themselves, and I don't know who else notices it, but I frequent all of them, and there's no locals working in there. He needs to answer why. He needs to answer why as well. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, caller. All right. So comment there for, I guess, Mr. Immediate Past President, Mr. Barry Bodden, to answer there. I'm not sure that we can answer the question for you, caller, but certainly that's food for thought, and hopefully he's tuning in this morning and can hear heard that comment that you just made. So Ready to Work.
Yeah.
What is it?
Well, I will do a brief introduction, and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Tasha to kind of take us through some more of the details, because, as I said, the ministry and primarily through the efforts of Dr. Tasha and her team have really pulled together this program. And so the Ready to Work program really aims to kind of address and facilitate, in large part, a welfare to work shift. So it works very much in tandem with the Ministry of Community Affairs, and making sure that the relationship between the NAU and those persons who are registered with the NAU, who are able-bodied, who are capable to work, are actually brought into the system of working. And so to create that kind of positive movement towards getting people to get in the mind frame of working now and getting them in the door. And that's one of the aims. It also aims to address some of the concerns that those persons who are relatively close to the job market, but for whatever reason they're finding it difficult to actually gain employment. It aims to try to address those concerns. As I said, there's two different cohorts of people that will be involved in the program. Okay. And Dr. Tasha can now kind of give us some more details as to how it came about, the purpose, and where we're at and what we're doing to move it forward.
Okay, and just for those listeners out there who may not know, the NAU is the Needs Assessment Unit. Yeah? Yes. Dr. Tasha Garcia?
Thank you. So I just want to take you back for a second to 2014, because one of the things that I think is important is to put this program into context, because what we don't want the listening public to think is that the government came up with something very quickly and threw it against the wall and is hoping that it sticks. So in 2014, July 2014, this government recognized that addressing unemployment is not a Ministry of Employment issue, it's an across-government issue. And in order to successfully address it, government needed to come together. And Minister Rivers spoke about earlier about the fact that the government is coming together and collaborating on this initiative. So in July 2014, Cabinet established an interministerial committee on employment. That committee has senior high-level representation from across all ministries, including the Portfolio of Civil Service and Cabinet Office. Mm-hmm. The committee spent the greater part of 2014 going into 2015 engaged in research looking at the context of unemployment in the Cayman Islands. Because while we can speak globally about unemployment, what was critical for us is to understand unemployment within our context. What are the barriers that our people face? What do employers say about the challenges? What are job seekers saying about their experience? We held focus groups, conducted surveys with the private sector, with the public sector, with the unemployed persons, looked at building a compendium of efforts that the government has engaged in their existing arrangements to address unemployment, and looked at where the gaps are and looked at what the needs are. When we looked at the barriers, we identified that our people face both direct and indirect barriers to employment, and then unpicked to identify what exactly those barriers are, so that when we develop programs, the programs aren't based on what we think the issues are. Mm-hmm. The programs are based and designed around what we know through this research the issues are. So this first piece of work, and that research concluded in July 2015, was a critical and necessary step for us to make informed decisions and for our government to be able to approve programs and move forward in a very informed and strategic way. So in July 2015, the Interministerial Committee on Employment concluded its work, and that report then led to the development of a strategy to address unemployment. That report is being presented to Cabinet and will soon be made a public document. As Minister Rivers said, this is really about government coming together, and the Deputy Governor approached me in my role in the Strategic Reforms Implementation Unit in October of 2015 and requested the support of the SRIU in working with this government in identifying a strategy and approach to addressing unemployment. And a recommendation was presented to caucus. I worked on it collaboratively with the special advisor to the Premier, Kieran Stigant. Kieran looking at kind of the long-term work that needs to take place in the bigger picture around addressing unemployment. And I looked at opportunities that existed today that the government could capitalize on, that was connected to that long-term vision and that long-term strategy, because that's also really important, that whatever we're doing today needs to fit into a bigger picture, needs to be sustainable, and needs to make good sense. So in on November 3rd, we presented a proposal to caucus, and they gave the green light to go ahead and engage in further development of that strategy. At that point, then, we expanded the partnership and the team that was working on it, representatives. So from the SRIU, I led the team. We had representatives from the Ministry of Education, Employment and Gender Affairs and representatives from the Ministry of Community Affairs and Youth. So we came together and spent the majority of December. Our Christmas was spent looking at the IMC report, the strategy that had been presented to caucus, and then developing and identifying the programs that would come out of that. Ready to Work is one program that this government is developing. It's the first that we're pouring resources into, and the other programs which complement it will be coming online shortly, and you'll hear about those at a later date. Ready to Work is really about facilitating a meaningful engagement between unemployed persons and employers. It is about providing both unemployed persons and employers with the support needed so that those engagements, those relationships, those employment relationships can be accessed and maintained and can be successful. As Minister Rivers said, there's two streams of unemployed persons we're looking at, and this comes out of the research. Our research tells us that we have Caymanians who are quite close to the labour market, but for whatever reason, if you will, just haven't caught a break. It may be that they were working in a company that has been downsized and their post has been made redundant, and they're now seeking employment and transitioning from one job to another and need support in that transition. It may be university students who have come home and need support connecting with the labour market and accessing employment. It may be people who have skills and experience, but something happened, transition in their life, and they're now finding themselves, looking to access employment. On the other hand, we have those individuals who are a little further from the job market. They may be accessing support through the Needs Assessment Unit. They may be supported by family and friends in this time of transition. But they need a bit more support or different support. Mm-hmm. So the program is designed to address these two groups of individuals and to provide services that meet their needs. So just to kind of walk you through it really quickly, for those that are closest to the labour market, what we are doing is presenting an opportunity for them to be to access a short-term employment opportunity for 6 months designed to turn into gainful employment and providing whatever level of support they need. So for some of them, it might be some training and development. It might be some support around soft skills. For the employer, it's the opportunity to have additional HR support to address any issues. So for example, if the person comes late, if they're having trouble working with the team or fitting into the environment, the corporate environment, the employer then calls the program coordinator who will provide that support and have those conversations with the employee. So supporting the employee and the employer in that relationship so that it is successful. For those who are further away from the job market, it's providing more extensive wraparound support and services, both counseling support, technical skills support, soft skills, communication skills, all of those have been built into this program. And I think one of the things that's really important to note is that this 6 months of short-term employment is not training for training's sake. It's not short-term employment for short-term employment's sake. It is designed to be a pathway, if you will, a pathway to long-term gainful employment. So as we are engaging with employers, and we've gone through a period of consultation with employers as we finalize the detailed planning of this program, and we've got a number of employers who we have set up engagements with who are ready to come on board with us, and those meetings will start to take place as early as tomorrow. Actually, we're meeting with the Cayman Contractors Association tomorrow afternoon, and other businesses early in the day and all through this week who have come to the table and said, we want to be a part of this. But in approaching employers, it's to share with them what we're looking for are opportunities for employment within their companies. So looking at existing vacancies or vacancies that will come online over the next few months, so that should these unemployed individuals be successful through this 6 months and through the support that we're provided, we anticipate that many of them will, that at the end of the 6 months, there is then a real opportunity for long-term employment. So it's not simply at the end of 6 months, let's throw that person back and let's get another one. That's not how this program has been designed, and that's not the expectations that the employers have that we haven't engaged and that have helped us through consultation and fine-tuning this program. It is about long-term gainful employment for our people, but it's about employers having an opportunity and job seekers having an opportunity that for the 6 months, for a 6 months probationary period, that there is support and services provided to ensure that relationship is successful. And for businesses that need a subsidy to support that, there is a subsidy that's available for those businesses. I know a number of the larger businesses have said that, they will fund this, and the wraparound support and services, the additional HR support is going to be very beneficial for them. For some of the smaller businesses, they've said that the subsidy would be really helpful. We have as an example, a small business owner who has said that they have a post coming available over the next few months. Somebody will be leaving them. And ideally what they would like is the new post holder to start while that person is still in post so that there can be a period of transition and training and development. But they said as a small business, I can't afford to pay 2 people to do the same job. And so they said for them, this is perfect because they can maintain the current post holder till their contract is up, but then they can bring this person in early so that there can be that training and that development and that opportunity for an overlap that will really ensure that the person coming in is much more successful.
We do have a caller in the air. We do need to take a break, but the question I'm going to leave with you, Dr. Tasha, is what guarantees that those small businesses, for instance, that would be getting the subsidies for 6 months to have this person on, what really guarantees that they'll keep that person on, even with the extra support that's needed and so on and so forth? So we'll get to that answer in just a bit, but let's take a break first and then we'll come back to the caller. And welcome back to For the Record. We have a caller on the air. Caller, do you have a question or comment this morning for Minister Rivers or Dr. Tasha?
Yes, good morning. How are you doing today?
Very well, thanks. Caller, if I could ask you to just keep your comments to a minimum this morning. Unfortunately, we're going to be ending the show a little bit early, and we want all of the information that's necessary for the listening public to have this morning. So if you could just do me that great favor, I'd really appreciate it.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
Just to say good morning to Ms. Rivers and Ms. Garcia.
Good morning.
Morning.
I want to say congratulations firsthand. For many of the years we speak of, we want to get things done for the youth or for the unemployed. This is one initiative that I think if everyone put hands and heart together, it should work. I know that there are many people who do not support an establishment for the vocational training facilities in the island because they said it's too expensive. So I congratulate you. It's not probably it's not all that need to be done, but at least it's a start. Now, what I would like to find out from you, however, is would there be an agent that move around and to make sure that this thing goes in place as it's supposed to? Because there was a few years ago when there's something put in place where just per se, if someone is leaving the post, and to probably go and roll over or whatever, there would be someone that filled that space, which would be someone with a status or residency or a Caymanian in general. So I just want to know how would you oversee this? Thank you and have a pleasant day.
Thank you, caller. Minister Rivers?
Yes, no, thank you, caller, and thanks again for again your endorsement of the program and the start, as you said, that we're looking to make with this particular program, but also to just briefly address the concern, and then I'll ask Dr. Tasha to fill in any details that I might not have provided at the end of my contribution. But this program is designed to have a coordinator. We have a program coordinator who is going to be working exclusively on trying to make sure that the program works the way that we anticipate as a government that it should work. So that person would be the kind of liaison between both the employers that are participating as well as the employees that are participating in the program. And we anticipate that this program will be on a rolling start. So we won't have a mass influx of people at the very beginning starting the program, but as and when people present themselves to the NWDA and are deemed to be appropriate for the program and are put forward for the program, as and when jobs come available in terms of employers coming forward, then there will be those matches. So again, it'll be a program that we've kind of had a soft launch the beginning of this month. We'll have a more formal launch at a later point, but it'll be a program that we hope will continue for quite some time as a rolling start for certain individuals.
Dr. Tasha?
Yeah, and I guess in answering or answering his question, but also to connect it back to the question then that you asked, Donna, what guarantees are there that at the end of 6 months the employer is not just going to say, okay, I'm done and walk away? I think, the caller said it very nicely, all of us putting hands on hearts together. So in the first instance, it's about, let's all come together as a country because, again, it's unemployment is not a government issue, it's a country issue. So let's all come together, hands on heart together, and in faith step forward in this initiative together. But we've also then built in, being realistic, built in safeguards to the program. So some of the safeguards are around a process of ongoing review and evaluation of the person who's in the placement of the employee. So we have, as Minister Rivers shared, a full-time program coordinator dedicated to this program, so that if at any point the employer sees a red flag, has a concern, whatever it may be, they can reach out to the program coordinator, share that with them. They will document it, but more than that, they will then reach out to the employee and have a conversation and provide whatever support or services are needed in order to address whatever it is that the employer has seen, so that we are addressing things head on as they present themselves. Real time. In addition to that, we have a formal evaluation or review that takes place at midpoint and at the end of the program. And this is an evaluation that both the employer does on their place and on the employee as well as on the program, so that we can make adjustments as we go, but also that then the employee has feedback and they know what it is they need to be working on, what is it the employer really likes, so they know what to do more of. But also that employee has the opportunity as well to do an evaluation on their placement as well as on the program, because what's important is that two-way dialogue, because sometimes it may be the case that the employee is not performing as expected because they feel like, well, they didn't get enough training on this, or they're not getting enough support on this. There needs to be a mechanism for them to share and support that. And I think part of kind of looking at the long-term situation and building in using this program to drive the behaviors we want to see. One of the things that we're trying to do is inculcate a culture where, as employees, we can advocate for ourselves in a healthy and productive way that supports us maintaining and progressing in employment, and not just sitting at our desks and grumbling and not getting whatever needs we have on the job met because we're afraid to go and share that, we need some more help or we need some more training. So the program coordinator will help to facilitate those conversations and that healthy dialogue between the employee and the employer throughout the program. And we believe that through that opportunity, whatever issues will surface and be addressed, so that at the end of the program, it'll be very difficult for the employer to say, well, this hasn't worked out. Well, what part hasn't worked out? Because we have documentation throughout the process. You've been engaged in conversations throughout the process. So what part isn't working for you? We do recognize that there may be instances where the employer may be willing to keep on then in full-time employment that employee, but feels like there still needs to be some support. So it's not that at the end of the 6 months, for every employee participant in this program, then the services are going to stop. There may be a transition for some. So it may be a continuation of supporting in some ways some of the wraparound services as they continue in their employment, to ensure that there's a tapering off for some individuals in that transitioning that's needed. So those are some of the safeguards that are built in. We also have a contract or MOU, if you will, between the government and the employee and the government and the employer, so that everybody knows what their roles and responsibilities and expectations are, so that at the end of it, nobody can say, oh, I didn't realize I was supposed to be considering taking on this person full time. So it'll all be there in black and white. There'll be an orientation for both the employer and the employee, so everybody knows what it is their expectations are, what the roles are, and what we've, as Minister said, it's soft launched on the 1st of February, and I've got meetings with 12 different companies. 12 different companies came forth last week and said, we want to know more. And so we're starting off those engagements with face-to-face meetings to share with them what the program is and what the program isn't, so they know what it is that they're buying into if they choose to partner with us. And we believe once we get a number of employees, a number of matches made, and as Minister said, it's a rolling start. So as employers, present opportunities for short-term employment that has the real potential of becoming gainful employment, then we will identify 2 or 3 or 4 candidates that are suitable so that they can then go through their recruitment and identify which one is the better fit for their organization, most suitable for their organization. So we're really looking for the labor market, for the employers to drive the matches, to initiate it by telling us, here's what we have available, here's what the labor market has available across industries, across various levels of the organization. And then we will go and identify individuals, all individuals. And I think the other important thing to note is that any unemployed person out there that's interested in this program, what you need to do is register as a full registrant of the NWDA in order to be considered for this or any of the programs. So it's not that unemployed persons register specifically for this program. They register for the services of the NWDA, and in doing so have access to all of the programs. And this is just one of the programs that the NWDA offers.
Right.
Through that registration, unemployed individuals will undergo an intake assessment. And it is pretty extensive. It's about an 1.5 to 2 hour long process. But through that assessment, we'll be able to determine, are they appropriate for this program, or is there another program that they're more appropriate for as a pathway to this program? Because everything that we're building, both in our education system as well as through employment, are about pathways. And so that's kind of a theme within our ministry. When this program ends, where does the person go next? So as an example, Passport to Success, a pathway to Passport to Success is this program. Okay. So we're inviting, Passport to Success graduates are being identified who still need some support and services. There's a special cohort for them in this program. And of course, to the caller from Cayman Brac, we do have a cohort in Cayman Brac that's being developed, and we're working along with the Ministry of District Administration to develop a program very similar to the one in Grand Cayman, but, caters to and bespoke for Cayman Brac and the needs of the Cayman Brac community. So that is there.
And
so
sorry, I just want to make sure that when people understand when Dr. Tasha is talking about actually registering as a full registrant, that is the job seeker extended. For those of you that are now familiar with the new system, and I mean that's a whole other exciting topic for another conversation about where we're at with respect to the registration process. It's much more streamlined. People can register as Job Seeker Plus, which means that they're completely, fully able and willing to do their own job search and job seeking. They just want to know what jobs are registered and how to access them. But people that are going to be kind of identified for this program in particular, if you're registered as a Job Seeker Plus but want to be considered, you would have to basically change your registration to become a Job Seeker Extended, and therefore agree to go through this assessment process so we can really determine whether or not you would be appropriate given the parameters of this particular program. So just so people may be familiar with those terms now, Job Seeker Plus versus Job Seeker Extended. It is Job Seeker Extended registrants who would be chosen from the pool of those registrants to participate as and when it is determined that they're ready to do so.
We have any numbers on exactly how many people may be impacted or benefit from the Ready to Work program?
260.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
as
right.
I said, and that's anticipated to be on a bit of a rolling start as opposed to 260 right off from the races. But that's what the government is anticipating that we're trying to reach as a pilot, so to speak, as a pilot project. And so we are certainly committed from a financial perspective as needed, as Dr. Tasha has alluded to. It certainly isn't that every business that wants to participate feels that they need to get that subsidy. They may just want to have that support. And they've put forward their own, through their own funds or otherwise, they will support. But of course, for some businesses who may need that extra support to be able to make that transition, as the one example was given, that subsidy would be available for that 6-month period if and when it's needed.
Speaking of the subsidies, and obviously these folks will be paid. These are paid positions. What about pension and health benefits? How does that fit into the scheme of things?
So they will be paid. It's a stipend. It's not the equivalent of the value of the post.
Okay.
So unless the employer is covering it or tops it up, but what the government is willing to cover is a stipend, which is in line with the Cayman Islands government intern policy. But in addition to the stipend, then under the current labor law, there is a requirement for health and pension. So if the employer is accessing the subsidy, that has been built in as well. So it's the stipend, health insurance, pension. There's also funding that has been allocated for childcare. We know that childcare or lack of access to childcare is a barrier to employment for a number of individuals in the Cayman Islands. So there's childcare support that has been built in. Of course, you have to meet the requirements of the policy that's been in place in government for support and accessing childcare support. There's also, for the first month of the program, access to bus vouchers to access public transportation, because transportation is another barrier. So if you're getting the stipend, but you don't get the stipend until after you've worked, then we'll be able to support in the first month with transportation.
Do you all envision the Ready to Work program really targeting more blue collar workers or white collar workers?
It's across the board, and we'll be able to share more in the coming weeks on the employers who have signed on. But as I shared, I've got 12 engagements set up, and it's across the board.
Well, where does a stipend fit in, though, with that? If you have a blue-collar worker as opposed to a white-collar worker, and for those who may not know that, you were talking more upper management, more professional jobs as opposed to more vocational technical types of skilled workers, for those who may not understand what white-collar and blue-collar means. How will that work as far as how will you determine how much stipend a person gets paid?
So the stipend's built for, as you said, the white collar jobs, those more executive, the administrative type jobs. Those are built around the government summer intern policy, which is based on education. So depending on their level of education, they will get an equivalent stipend.
Right.
But none of those will be the equivalent of the job.
Right.
For those posts, we call, kind of the blue collar posts, if you will. Those are going to be based on minimum wage, because in this country, once minimum wage is instituted, we can't pay anything less than minimum wage. So they will be based on that. And hopefully employers will be paying a little bit more than minimum wage, because as we know, minimum wage is not necessarily a livable wage. So hopefully they'll be paying more, so that the idea is that those individuals then who are successful at the end of the 6 months, part of what happens at the end of the 6 months then is an increase in their salary, because they were getting paid below the value of that post.
Okay, so you mentioned how potential employees can get involved by going to the NWDA and doing a full registration.
Yes.
What about potential employers out there who may be listening this morning and say, oh, this sounds like something I may be interested in? How do they get involved?
Well, we invite all employers out there who are interested, even if you're just interested in knowing more at this stage, contact the NWDA, and we will be happy to come out and do a presentation, meet with you, whether it's by phone if that works best for you, or we're happy to do a face-to-face meeting engagement with you, to share with you what the program is and how you can partner with us in addressing unemployment in our Cayman Islands.
One caller wanted to find out or make a suggestion to make the NWDA website a little bit more user friendly, because not everybody knows how to use a website or how to maneuver their way through websites. So, any comments on that?
We are working on the website. That's a work in progress, if you will,
right.
And something that is being addressed. But I would share with Ready to Work, what you can do is go to Ready and the number 2 workky.com, and you can get information on Ready to Work. So for employers, for job seekers out there, go to www.ready, the number 2 workky.com.
Okay. So we've talked about all of this, and we know that it takes people to really carry forth such a program. Are the resources in place? Do you have enough staff in place? Are you going to have people that are overworked, as they would say? Putting this, because you have a lot of programs out there, really that's targeting various people within the community. So, do you have the manpower? Do you have all the resources that are necessary, just in case you're inundated with people who want to be a part of this particular program and the others that you have in place?
Well, I won't say that we won't be overworked. If anybody who's familiar with our ministry and the work that's done under our ministry can attest to the fact that we're all overworked, all of our departments and our ministry staff. But yes, so we've got the full-time program coordinator who's actually been seconded, and we're working to backfill that post. In addition to that, through the Needs Assessment Unit, we've got access to some support from their staff, and as well as other staff within the NWDA who are supporting. And then the Strategic Reforms Implementation Unit, the SRIU, that operates under the Office of the Deputy Governor, we're going to be supporting in terms of project managing it and coordinating and overseeing it to ensure that everything happens as it should. And there's also support through the Office of the Premier. They've engaged with us and they're supporting. And then the task force, of course, is going to be a huge factor in support because they're really kind of our private sector arm. They're the reach, they're their liaison into the private sector to help us to identify those jobs. And I will say that the 12 engagements that we have came out of the work of the task force. So the task force members identified, reached out to their colleagues, their contacts in the private sector and said, hey, you need to get on board. And they connected us with those individuals.
That's wonderful.
So in this spirit, it really is a spirit of true public-private partnerships in that respect. I mean, of course, as Dr. Tasha alluded to, the ministry certainly in all areas under the ministry they work extremely hard. And I want to say again, a big public thank you to all of the various people that work in the ministry and the various departments that fall under it, because I can attest to the fact that they work fastidious and they're very dedicated and they're given very enthusiastic timelines in most instances to achieve, and they really try to step up to the best of their ability. And it is very encouraging. We had the first task force meeting earlier last week as well, and it was encouraging to kind of see the players at the table, and they were very keen to kind of see what they can do from the private sector perspective to get the momentum going, and it seems like that certainly has kicked off in earnest. And so it's going to really, the success of this program is going to be all hands on deck, and we will do our part to try to make sure that this program, now that we have it designed, is rolled out to the best of our ability. And certainly having the Premier as the head of the task force from the government side was absolutely critical, because we needed the country to realize that this was something that was supported not just by the Ministry of Employment, but the entire government. And so as, you know, as head of the government, but also as minister responsible for immigration, it was critical that the country realized that this was a government-wide initiative that the government felt important to move forward. And so the Premier has graciously taken on that particular role, coupled with the private sector co-chair, Mr. Woody Foster, who I've known, you know, and through my time at the ministry, working very closely on a number of different partnerships as well. So I want to thank him for taking on that position and helping us move this forward.
Just as a final question to wrap up here, this is sort of a veer off the track here, but still tied in, certainly tied in and connected. How can we change the perception that Caymanians are ready to work? When I say that, a lot of people perceive that Caymanians are not ready to work and that we're not willing, you know, to take on certain jobs, so on and so forth. Just to wrap up, how can we begin to change that perception? And do you think that it's changing?
Well, I think, again, going back to there are various, and the research that the work of the Interministerial Committee did will help to kind of show that there are different segments of our unemployed society. There are those that really aren't ready to work in terms of they have other barriers, such as it's either substance abuse barriers or attitudinal barriers, or just other barriers that kind of prevent them from really not just accessing employment but maintaining the employment. But on the other side of the spectrum, there are those that are ready, willing, able, capable, but for whatever reason, as a result of the changing economy, companies downsizing, redundancies, contractions, or for whatever reason something happened in their life and they had to take a step back from the employed workforce, now trying to get back in, changing skill sets required at the jobs. Those people are having, a hard time accessing the employment, just getting the foot in the door. But if given that opportunity, given their previous skills, given their previous performance, we're sure that they would shine and they would be able to maintain the employment once given that first opportunity. So we're trying to find ways and strategies to deal with all of these different levels of unemployed persons. So to your question, it's a bit of a mixed answer. You know, some folks really aren't ready. Some folks are ready and keen and just need to be given the opportunity. And so this program is actually helping to try to address those that are closer to that readiness and help them to bridge that gap of finding meaningful employment.
All right, Minister Rivers, Dr. Tasha, thank you both for being here with us. And for the record, we could talk for hours on end about this issue. We thank you to our callers who've called in this morning with their questions and suggestions. Thanks to both of you again. And of course, to the listening public, thank you for joining us here on For the Record. We'll see you or hear from you next time.
Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record.